Hi, and I'd like to welcome you to Gay Out the City. I'm Sean, your guest host for the afternoon, and I am here with musician, podcaster, drag queen, content creator, and very dear friend of mine, Prince Electro Diamond. How you doing today, sexy?
I am good. I'm good. I will say it's very weird being in this position, like not knowing what's coming, but I'm also so fucking excited to
Oh,
do
oh,
this.
oh, girl, you have no idea. This is really my first time doing something like this, and if I may say, people have always told me I should work in radio, so we'll see how this goes. Fuck it.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay. I'm not gonna take over too much because obviously you're in charge, but I'm just gonna explain to the audience. So what I wanted to do was there was a poll about a few months ago that I asked my audience if they wanted to try and see a guest host on here. So this is the trial run. So from this point, I'm gonna stop taking over, and Sean, go ahead.
You got it. Okay, so, well, my first question for you, for as long as I've known you and as much as we've talked about in the last few months about, uprooting yourself and moving to a new city, because, I mean, let's face it, we're in small town Florida, and, I mean, ew.
Totally.
but, but what would you say are the top three cities to which you'd want to move?
I would say definitely, and this is more like a recent revelation. My top three would be Detroit, Austin, or Atlanta. And that's something where I will say I've gone through the whole, as I've explained to people, I've gone through the whole 360 of the idea of living in LA, from me saying I would never live in LA to me going back to the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I would never move to LA, because I thought for a little bit I might, but then I realized I'm like, no offense to all the people out there from LA. It's just I am very much a real bitch. I am very much an opinionated person, and I know that shit don't fly in LA if you're not going to tell somebody they're fucking amazing.
Fucking work. Oh my lord! But yeah, and Detroit. I know we've talked about this before, but caught me a little bit by surprise. But then the more that I thought about it, I think you know where we're going with this.
Right. I mean, for
but
me,
it,
it's go ahead.
but it is still kind of a music city. At least I think so. Because back in the day, you know Motown and all the other major record labels were up there, and but what's left of it?
So, I mean, there's still tons of open mic scenes in Detroit. I mean, it's very much not necessarily like everyone's first music choice for like a city, but when I was doing research into it, Detroit is literally, I read in an article, Detroit's like the 11th largest music city in the world. So
Oh wow.
Detroit is like, it's not necessarily like pretty. It's got that like gritty edge where it's like, I figure, as I've like talked to you about before, I'm thinking definitely once I move, I'm gonna finally put out an album, and I feel like Detroit is the perfect place to do that, because if you want to go put out music, and do it affordably, you
Mm-hmm.
should do it to a city with music roots, and that's Detroit through and through.
Well, then that kind of leads me into my next question. So I know that you're planning on really growing your podcast, and do you feel like, moving to a new city would help you do that? Or like, what would you focus more on, putting out an album or taking this show to the next level?
I mean, ooh, that is a good question. I mean, in some ways, I am someone who's like always thought that doing this podcast and doing music have always gone hand in hand. So it's never, I think, in my opinion, having to choose one or the other. It's going to be finding a way to meld both to make that work in a new atmosphere. And it's something that I honestly believe will eventually be able to do. I mean, this is the thing. I would say you know how long I've been doing this. When I started out doing this podcast, and even when I started doing interviews in January, I had no idea what exactly I would be able to do in terms of growth, and if I was even going to be able to be successful
Right.
at getting people to do interviews. Like when I started in January, I'd have no idea that I'd be in the position that I am now, and that I'm grateful to have met such great people. Like literally, probably like one of the biggest people that I've gotten like close to, and I've told you this, is my friend Milo Marks, who I literally met as he was creating his album The Makings of an Outcast. I was able to discover his work and like get to see him grow and change and like put out something that made me that sorry, not made me, made him show his real authentic self. And I figured, like, why don't I do that? Because I mean, it's time. I'm ready to get this album out. I'm ready to talk. Like, that's probably why I haven't put out an album before, because I wasn't ready to talk, and now I'm ready to confront all of the horrific things that have happened in my life and all the traumas, and I'm ready to confront it head on.
Which, sweetie, if I may say, that's a very brave thing to do.
Yeah.
Because I've known you since, Christ Almighty, 2009. So going on 15 years. I've seen you at your highest and at your lowest and everything in between.
Yeah.
But in the last couple of years, I can't even, like, if this makes sense, the place that you've gotten to, like the headspace you've achieved, I mean, it's something to really be proud of. But I want to ask you,
Thank you.
like, even in the last year alone, what strides have you made in improving your mental health and, I guess, overall happiness?
Well, I would say what I've made in terms of like mental health, I would say in truth, I didn't honestly get into like a completely good headspace till about a month, 2 months ago, when I started like
Oh, wow.
when I decided to, well, I was in a bad place, but there was
Mhm.
stuff that I still had to confront. And it was like when I wrote my song Don't Touch Me, where it's like I've always like kind of, even since it's happened, I've always acknowledged the fact that I've been sexually assaulted, but it's like
Mhm.
finally having the courage to like say that, and then like also
But
just
then,
getting to God.
no, but then I guess you got to a point where you used a different label, like to
That's
finally call it for what it really was.
that's what I'm just about to get to.
Hmm.
So then after I wrote Don't Touch Me, because I have to make this clear, I have been raped and I have been sexually assaulted. I've been both. But as we've had the conversation before, I feel like it's important when people are talking about rape to say that it's rape. And when you're talking about sexual assault, to say that it's sexual assault. Because blanketly saying all sexual assault for everything and not acknowledging rape for what it is just, it puts like this sort of
Well,
it, it damn
yeah, let me put it this way. So the way I see it, all rape is sexual assault, but not all sexual assault is rape.
absolutely. And it's like when I was raped the first time I ever had sex, I had to confront that. And that's why when I wrote Rape, that song is an intense EDM style song, but it's like I needed to confront that because, as I've explained to people, I knew that I was never going to be able to be in a successful relationship if I didn't get past this, because
Yeah,
it stifles you.
because in a way, it writing this. I guess writing this gave you some sense of closure, or like the ability to, you know, come to terms with it and say, "This is what happened," and I need to move on with my life.
Absolutely. And it allowed me to finally get to a place where it's like, I think in truth, that's why I haven't sought a relationship before that, or none of my relationships have worked before, because it's like, as you went back to, if you call something that is rape sexual assault and you only classify it as sexual assault, you're still carrying part of that trauma with you. And it's like, if you don't allow yourself to just go head forward with it, because it's like, I mean, was it something that was easy? No. The first time I performed rape, I pretty much cried anytime I was awake. I slept a lot that day, but I cried most of the day, and that's why
Oh, honey.
when I got into when I got into the Twitch stream, I had difficulty singing, because from me like tearing up and like crying so much, my throat had sort of like tightened up.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I guess going through any type of trauma, it'll manifest in the weirdest physical ways possible. But at least from what I can tell, you've gotten to a point where you're not letting this trauma define you.
No, because that's the struggle I had to do. Was I had to be there and be like, I had to sit there and be like, I don't give a fuck. It's honestly the way that I've done anything, in terms of like when I decided to be like Prince Electro Diamond and start wearing like bodysuits and all that, and start wearing t-shirt dresses. I had to be like that person who sat there and said like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give
Yeah,
a fuck what you think.
girl, work. But that actually leads me to my next question, where did you have a moment that inspired you to create Prince Electro Diamond, or was it more like a gradual process?
See, I would say that my first recollections of what Prince Electro Diamond started as early as actually when we first met back in 2009.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't have, but also you remember from that time, at that time we were both identifying as straight. So I mean, like, I had
Right.
this vision, I had this vision. Yeah, what a fucking joke. I had this like vision of doing stuff and wearing platform shoes and wearing like a blonde, or no, wearing like a blue wig, and like I had all this vision, and like eventually it got to when I moved to Orlando the first time. Well, moved to the suburbs. Mistake. But it was like through that I had somebody confront me, and they're basically like, they loved the fact of how I got into performing, and they're like, there's something you're not. They basically made it seem like there's something that where the wheels aren't turning completely, and you need to start like performing as you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know what? You're right. So the name Prince Electro Diamond literally just came. Oh shit.
Hey, I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, not a problem. It happens. So anyway, so the name Prince Electro Diamond honestly just came to me one day when I was like coming home from Walgreens, when I was walking back to my apartment.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, I'm like, I like this.
It's like when you know, you fucking know. Like
absolutely.
it just feels right.
And then like I had to accept being an outsider,
Hmm.
which that's literally the story of my life. But it's like when you're performing in those open mic scenes where everybody else is just sitting there being typical white guys with their guitars, like performing their shit, and I would hand the DJ my iPod with my track for songs like Confession, and I used to hit like those hard 303 synths and like the
Hmm.
drums and like fucking make shit. And you have to look at half the audience is gonna be like, well, the musicians are gonna love what you're doing,
Oh
but
yeah.
a lot of older people are gonna be like looking at you like you're crazy.
Well, that's frankly that's a tale as old as time. The older generations, they're always the first ones to get shocked by new music. Like, oh, that's the fucking devil's work you're doing.
Exactly. And it's like with that, I learned to like not care. Like, were there certain things that I did when I was out performing that I regret? Honestly, only one thing.
What's
And
that?
it was okay. So there was this guy who, like, when I was performing in a straight bar, paid me like $20 to like take my wig and like wear it for like 5 minutes and then like gave it back to me. And it's like I felt I took the money, but I felt weird afterwards.
Yeah, I would too. I'm not. I think you might have told me that story once, but I don't
Yeah.
remember.
No, it's something I don't usually think about, but it's like
But that kind of reminds me. Didn't at another show? Didn't some drunk fan come up to you and try and snatch the wig off your head?
that was not at the straight bar. That was at Parliament House.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That I said another bar, but
yeah,
but
but well, no, they didn't try to snatch the wig off my head. They did it.
oh shit.
Like no, they were successful.
Oh boy.
And it's like, as I said, they're lucky they got me on a good night, because if not, my shoe would have gone off and I would have beat them upside the head.
Yeah. Oh, I would pay to see that.
Because it's like, I try and be a peaceful person, but it's like, don't. There is this artist out there who's like, her name's Brooke Candy, and she literally has a song that says, "Don't touch my hair, ho." Like, don't touch my hair. Like, it's mine. It's not yours.
Yeah, it's like
Like,
you touch my hair, I'll fight a bitch.
yeah, and it's like it was annoying because like then you have to like sit there and like fix the part and like make sure everything's in place, but it's like I would say be respectful to all entertainers. Like be respectful to drag queens, don't touch their hair, don't like finger a go-go boy's asshole. Like I mean these are things that like I feel should be common fucking sense, but some people just don't know how to act, and it's a shame.
Well, and especially in a post-COVID world, common sense has just gone out the window. I mean, not just at bars or nightclubs, but even just walking down the fucking street or trying to have a normal conversation with somebody. It just makes me want to pull my fucking hair out.
It's almost like I would say in general, I don't know if you feel this way, but I would definitely say that I feel a lot of times very uncomfortable talking to non-queer people, because I always feel like until I get to like know you, my first instinct is that if you are heterosexual, cis hetero, my first instinct is that automatically that you're homophobic.
Well, why do you assume that?
Because in truth, I would say it's the area that we live in.
Which, I
If I
mean,
lived right, I don't think I'd have those problems.
like me personally, I've never encountered a lot of that, if any, around here. But I have met my fair share of people like that elsewhere. Even I can even remember back in college days. I mean, I'm talking this is when I was fresh out the closet, like early 2014. But
Right.
I was I remember I was sitting outside the library with a few people, like a couple of people I knew, and then one of his buddies showed up, and then he was, I don't know what got him on this tangent, but he was just ranting about, like, oh, I can't stand these fags, these queers, these, just going on and on. And so I kind of politely excused myself and went home. But but now these days, I mean, I try not to let language like that bother me because, if anything, it's like the community needs to take back the power of those words and be like, no, like, sweetie, those are our words. What are you doing?
It's not that like I'd have a problem hearing it. My thing is I would say overall, not like physically, but verbally, I would say I'm probably a little bit more combative than you. So it's like
That's fair.
if somebody like goes in there, I remember what was it at? There was this person at like not the job I'm at now, but the previous job who I heard say the I'm not gonna say the word, but I heard say the T slur, and I'm like, what'd you just
Mm.
say?
Uh-oh.
Because I'm like, and then their argument was, well, that's what porn says. I'm like, listen, we are not gonna be here to police porn. Like, we are here. I am here, and you are like way too young because they were 24 years old. This person, and like
This and where did this happen?
this happened at Addington right before.
Oh.
Is yeah. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. So,
yeah, I did. So it's like I'm like, you are too fucking young for me to have to explain to you why this is wrong. But it
yeah,
is wrong.
and I mean, at the same time, it's like, I guess we can only spend so much time, you know, trying to police language, which, I mean, I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm in favor of policing like everyone's language because, some people, they're just really set in their ways. And it's like, but you still call them out.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, but
It's like, I was talking to, I think it was a cousin or a friend of mine, and, he raised the point that part of what's affected the left, the left side so much is instead of spending most of their time mobilizing and actually organizing and demonstrating for what they believe in, they've now turned to monitoring and gatekeeping, uh, language and social media posts, and almost like purposely looking for stuff even from 10, 15 years ago to, cancel them. Now, and some people really do deserve to be fucking canceled. But it's like at the same time, in fact, that's what I want to ask you. What are your thoughts on cancel culture and like how bad it's actually gotten?
I would say overall, there are certain people who absolutely, in my well, it's actually I would say that they don't need to be canceled. It's more they need to be. Here's where I think the problem is. A lot of people want to like cancel people
Hmm.
instead of looking at the bigger picture, where it's like, no, these people need to be in jail. Like,
Yeah, no, and canceling. I mean, it should be for like the most extreme cases because but like, let's see. I had an example and then I lost my train of thought. But
well, I mean, the example that I would use of somebody who needs to not just be canceled but needs to be in jail is somebody like James Charles, who is like has a
I
giant platform. I'm about to explain. Yeah,
yeah, I've
you
never
you,
heard of them.
you have no idea, of course. Typical. This is our like friendship. I have to explain to Sean who the fuck people are. Anyway, but it's like so. James Charles is a
And
beauty and
for the record, I'm doing the best I can, so back off.
anyway. So James Charles is a beauty influencer who has famously over I want to say or I shouldn't say famously, infamously over the past I want to say easily year and a half has been caught multiple times DMing straight men or straight boys who are under the age of 18.
Oh, fuck, that's not good.
Yeah. So that's where I'm saying, like, at this point, I think there's, like, at least... I want to say there's at least, like, 15, 20, like, people against him, or maybe even be more than that. And it's like, at that point, that goes beyond cancel culture, and that goes to this motherfucker needs to be in jail.
Yeah, it's like, cancel culture is one thing, but if you have someone supposedly, committing criminal acts, then yeah, it's you need to take it from there. And in fact, I need to pause for just a second because my laptop's battery sucks, and let me just go and plug this bad boy in. Hold on.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, there we go. And I know that you said before that this platform might cut out, while charging.
We'll see. And I mean, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, so
but yeah,
what was this? To cancel culture. It's like there's some things I kind of get. Like, well, no, I shouldn't say I get, but it's like I understand why certain things are being done. Like how at Disney they're closing Splash Mountain because they want to reopen it to not have Song of the South be a staple of the ride. They want to have it to where like the Princess and the Frog is, because that's a little bit more. And I've seen black people actually argue that Song of the South is not a well, I shouldn't say not. I don't want to say it's not a racist movie, but it's not. It portrays black people in a good way, and I feel like it doesn't, because it shows them honestly being happy and singing on the plantation, and it's like that's not how things were.
Right. And I mean, I would go out on a limb to say that most people alive today, myself included, have never actually seen the full movie. Like I know I've seen clips of it on YouTube, but I take it the film's been out of print for a long time.
Yeah. In fact, I
know you've seen the whole thing because I mean, your mom bought everything and anything Disney related.
She recorded it from. I don't know where. I feel like she was able to like record it on VHS for like a and recorded it with like somehow she got to like a Japanese channel because it had like Japanese subtitles on it. I don't exactly know how that happened, but like that definitely was. So yes, I had seen the whole movie, but it's like when people say like, because I will say this, and particularly in Florida, especially nowadays, and I'm gonna get some shit for this, but I don't fucking care. I'm gonna say it. Like, Florida is raising a generation of idiots. Like, it's. I'm sorry. Like,
well, I mean, with DeSantis banning all the books and telling teachers what they can't say in the classroom, like,
and trying to make it seem like that during the civil rights era that black people wanted to come to this country. Like, how the fuck can you do that? That's not history. That's literally rewriting history.
Right. And if I recall, a lot of black servicemen joined. I mean, I'm talking like the beginning and like going into Vietnam here, but they joined the service to get away from all that shit.
Exactly. It's like, granted, I mean, some people say like you shouldn't just like only focus on the tragic parts of history. You should focus on history as a whole, but it's like, I get wanting to focus on history as a whole, but you can't rewrite history. It fucking happened.
Yeah, because I mean, and it hasn't been that long since we graduated high school, and I can still remember a lot of my teachers, they didn't really hold back when it came to, talking about the tough chapters of the history book. And even, I mean, I've even heard some of the books that we've read, like To Kill a Mockingbird off the top of my head, one of my favorite novels of all time. They took it out of the classroom. I mean, we even watched, the movie with Gregory Peck, and, they made a lot of adaptations and changes, but especially right at the end where, Atticus Finch was given this closing argument to the jury, it just sends a chill down my spine, just the way that he just gives such irrefutable evidence that, Tom Robinson was not guilty, but somebody in the courtroom was. But then, of course, they still found him guilty as charged, and I think if I remember right, they shot him when he was trying to get out of prison.
And
so it's this really tough. It's tough shit to learn, but if you don't learn history, then it's going to repeat itself.
exactly, it's like everyone who, especially what I feel like teaching history does is teaching history prevents conservatism, because what that is when you have people like the Proud Boys who are out there and Trump supporters who are out there saying like 6 million Jews dead weren't enough. I'm like, what are you fighting for? Because you're clearly not fighting for anything good. You're fighting for the amount of Jewish people to be greater that are dead. It's like, why are you advocating for murder at all?
That's fucked up 6 ways from Sunday.
Yeah,
and I mean, I can safely say I've never seen anything like that around here. But I mean, anytime that does happen, that makes it makes all the major news outlets. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, so we have a governor who is effectively censoring the classroom. And I even, a couple of people in my life, they're teachers. In fact, one's a former teacher and another, teaches math. But the restrictions that they've placed in the classroom, like he was even saying how in English classes, they don't even really do novels anymore. They just do articles, current events, and just analyze. I'm like, in what way does that teach someone, fucking English if you're not actually reading books, discussing them, and, doing projects? If you're just reading the news, I'd be bored to tears.
Well, it's because when you say that, you're also getting the news very well. Okay, news itself, especially nowadays, is very biased. But the news that they're feeding to children is children, teens, whatever you want to call it. It's very much, especially in Florida, it's very much a conservative perspective on how the country is right now, and it's like,
and I really get where you're coming from, and I think now I get my news from like 2 sources, NPR and the BBC. And even then, a little bit of bias will slip in there somehow. But, whether it's left-leaning like CNN, MSNBC, or right like Newsmax and Fox, you really can't turn on the TV or go online without somebody just giving their opinion on what the news. I'm like motherfucker, just tell us what happened. Don't don't put these like big ba-dum-bum-bum-ba-dum-ba-dum-dum-dum headlines and music to just get you all scared and riled up. I mean, I've even I've even talked about shit like this with my dad, where he remembers guys like uh, Walter Cronkite. He'd come on at 6 o'clock and report the news for half an hour. Boom, done.
But I mean, okay, I will play devil's advocate here. Do you honestly think that CNN and MSNBC are very left leaning? Because I would say you can't be in that corporate system and be left leaning because of if there's something against pharmaceutical companies are your ads, you can't report a story on them.
Yeah, it's so when I said left leaning, I guess that's the image they try to project, but when you peel back all those layers, that's where they're that's what they're really about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Even in independent networks, like if we could talk about TYT, because I know you no longer support them or watch them.
Absolutely.
And have you ever discussed why, or has anyone ever asked you?
Nobody has, like, I think, and everyone especially knows that, especially when I used to do the opinionated bitch, I was very much a person who was about watching them. But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
when you see them sort of being transphobic and allowing that to be okay, I can't support a network that does that, because my feeling is, if I know there's some gays out there that think that the T needs to be separated from the LGBT movement and they just want to be in the LGBT movement, we all have to fight together. Because let's be clear, let's not forget, just to give you all some like herstory, it was Marsha P. Johnson who threw the first brick of Stonewall. Don't care what that fucking movie said, it was Marsha fucking P. Johnson who did it.
Fucking work. And in fact, if I can point this out, it's almost like we were destined to meet each other, because I share a birthday with her, and your birthday is on Stonewall Day.
Absolutely. So it's like, with anyone who's like, you have to separate them, it's like, but why? We're already divided as a country out there, because you have everybody else. You have essentially, you have heterosexuals, not as a whole, but in like a large respect, fighting against us, because you have people who, I will just say this, you cannot support Candace Owens and say that, or Owens, and say that you support the LGBT community. You can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just excuse me, that's one of like many examples. I think the way I see things, I think a lot of people just they don't really care one way or the other. It's like, okay, like, they know we exist, and and I would say most people support our right to get married and have a family, because
Right.
compared with how things were even like 20 years ago, I mean, and I knew I was gay a long time before I even admitted it to myself, but things, it just wasn't talked about in my house. My parents, they could not be more loving and supporting. It's just the way I remember it. I mean, I didn't even know that one of my aunts was a lesbian until I was an adult. Like, it just wasn't talked about. And I was also pretty, little bit naive and clueless to that sort of thing. But then once I got to college, it opened my eyes to, this whole great big beautiful world of, people of all different backgrounds and personalities, and even,
Right.
I mean, for the record, I never even heard the word transgender until I got to college, and it took me a little while to understand it. But once I did, I'm like, like, girl, I mean, you do you, boo.
Yeah, and it's like, you. I would say this, like, obviously, you know that I didn't finish college. So, like, my experience was living among the real world. And it's like, once I lived among the real world and saw that all these things that conservatives, like, granted, I wasn't conservative at this time, it's like, you see all these people that they quote unquote call like welfare babies and like food stamp moochers and all this, like all the fucking shit that they say. It's like you see motherfuckers out here struggling, and when you can't pay somebody fucking $15 an hour in this country, like, and that doesn't even like conflate to where inflation is gone, because like now it needs to be $20 an hour, but you can't pay somebody $15 an hour to work.
Yeah, because if the minimum wage, which hasn't budged in fucking 15 years, Congress, get your head out your ass. But if it had kept up with inflation and productivity, it'd be over $20 an hour. But if you if you really want something that just puts it in perspective, just how underpaid and mistreated, like, for example, retail workers are, just watch John Oliver's segment on dollar stores. Like,
Right.
some of the shit that he shows the world, like, the fact that those stores are so understaffed that sometimes there'll be just one employee playing cashier, manager, restocker, everything. The floor's in shambles, the back room's a mess, and customers are pissed. I think there was this $1 store that got shut up. I can't remember where, but somebody robbed the place. And then not even an hour later, the regional manager was talking about, when are we going to reopen the store? I'm like, excuse me, your employees have just been through a traumatic experience and you're already talking about reopening the store? I mean, get the fuck out of here. And they're making minimum wage, if not a little bit more.
And it's like, I know there's been an argument before that like the states should essentially raise the minimum wage themselves, but they're not going to do it because it's like, and going back to why I decided to move to Detroit, it's like, if you look at like the cheapest apartment in Detroit versus the minimum wage in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
like ratio wise, it's honestly the best. Like, how do I put this? It's like the best per like for example, the minimum wage in Michigan is $10.33. The cheapest apartment is $600. That's
So it's
proportionally accurate.
So that's commensurate with the cost of living, I think, is what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
Which that was going to be my next point is, instead of having the national minimum wage be the same, I think we should have a federal mandate where every state has to, analyze the cost of living on a yearly basis and then raise the minimum wage to fit the cost of living. Because, I mean, obviously, $15 an hour goes a lot further in Alabama than, say, California.
Right. But it's like, if to that point, you have states like, okay, so going back to Atlanta, the minimum wage in Georgia is $7.25 an hour. The cheapest apartment I found when looking for apartments was $7.99 a month. That it does not add up at all.
No.
There's no way that you can make $7.25 an hour and live in an apartment. Like, not saying I want to get them jobless minimum wage, but I'm saying that I need it to at least be like somewhat proportional, so whatever job I'm getting paid will be enough for me to be able to afford to live and then some.
Yeah, because I mean, anyone who has a job like that and has to pay rent, you can't make it without government assistance. You just can't. And which is why I'm like, if you would pay your employees a little bit more fucking money, then we'd save even more money by not having as many people need food stamps, Section 8 vouchers. I mean,
Right.
like all incredibly helpful programs. It's just like there's such a disconnect between like, oh, we want to keep our workforce as lean and trim as possible, and then I just I I think I've hashed at that enough, but and briefly going back to you know like the trans community. Um, so I know that, and I'm going back a ways here. I know that you were in a relationship with somebody who came out as trans like later, and
Right.
and I know you and I have talked about it a lot, but it's like after having that experience, like how did that shape your view of you know of the community?
I would say I didn't have like a shaping or changing view of the trans community till much after that because
Yeah, because
it was
I remember, she left you a note, moved all of her stuff out, and that was it. And
right.
you were pissed, confused, angry.
Well, I mean, it is because it's like, granted, going back to struggling to live, it's like
Mm-hmm.
having two incomes in an apartment really helps me because it's like
Yeah,
it makes the struggle less, and it's like now I'm back to dealing with this shit on my own. It's just it
yeah, it's
shook on my whole world.
well, I think your rent when you were living where you were, it was like what, 750, 800 a month?
No, it never got to 800 a month.
Oh.
I moved out before they tried to like sneak that in, and that's why I ended up leaving that apartment. But it's like,
I mean, and we're talking like a piece of shit duplex built in the '60s with all kinds of things wrong with it, and the, land,
absolutely,
the landlord wouldn't fix fucking anything. And but yeah, I think a little while ago, we were curious and looked up your old address, and they wanted like 950, maybe probably.
absolutely.
I'm like what? Why?
Because they feel that they can get it, and it's like it's a shame because like you should not. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. You should not be paying $900 a month and living in the hood. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That to me doesn't make any sense.
not at all.
And it's like that's why like when I looked at Detroit, you could get apartments. So what I was paying there for a one bedroom, I found two bedrooms for $750 a month.
Girl, what?
Yeah.
Wow. In fact, I think that's what a friend of mine was paying to live in a two bedroom, and this is like 15 years ago. In fact, it might have even been 650, and he had a roommate, so that was easy breezy. But and even around here, there is rent controlled housing. Like I'm lucky enough to have gotten into a place
Yeah.
that offers that, but I had to wait almost 2 years, and I can't imagine the wait list is any shorter, like with all the other places.
No, and it's like you shouldn't have to live in rent controlled housing. Your rent should be based on what the minimum wage is, and it's just, or it should be
Or
sort of,
the
as I said, and it should be ratioed better to what the minimum wage is. But it's
Yeah,
like,
or the cost of living, yeah.
yeah, right.
But yeah, it's like I'll finish that thought, I promise.
You know,
But uh, why don't we come back to it?
okay,
But yeah, it's with what people are paid versus being at the mercy of landlords. It's no wonder that the homeless crisis has gotten infinitely worse. In fact, even especially like I'm gonna just touch on California's problem for a second because you know what is California to say that they're committed to solving the homeless crisis when uh, there are committees that like in different cities like LA, San Francisco, wherever. But if I'm not mistaken, some of the people in these commissions to help the homeless, they're making $250,000 a year, if not more. So it's like, what incentive do you have to get all the homeless people off the street if you're just laughing all the way to the bank?
Exactly. And it's like you can't sit there and let developers come in and build on the conservative side $2,000 apartments
Mm-hmm.
and say that you're trying to solve the homeless problem. There's no way that you can do that because like that's why nobody can afford to live in California, and that's why so many people like Skid Row is a thing because you
It's I
can't
mean,
afford to live there.
yeah, I mean, girl, there's over 50,000 people in Skid Row alone. I mean, that's like twice the population of the city we're in now, just on a multiple block section of LA. Like that's just fucking insane. On top of the how easy it is to get fentanyl and all the violence that breaks out. It's just it's so depressing, and yet the people who have the power to do something about it, they just they spin their wheels and give their talks like, oh, we're working day and night to solve this problem. No, you're not. No, you're not, because this problem would have been fixed years ago.
Right. And I want to state for the record that the homeless problem that they have in LA is not the reason I don't want to move there. I don't want to move there because I want to, at least in my view, not to everybody in LA, but this is a large part of the population. I want to be able to have a conversation with somebody and know that, or like, I want to be able to have a friend in somebody and know that they're my actual fucking friend.
Like, in other words, you're concerned with like fakeness out there.
Absolutely.
Which I get that. I get that. And I've been to LA a few times. It's a fun town, like there's so much shit to do. And, it's not all just Hollywood and, oh, look, there's the Hollywood sign and let's go to the Chinese theater.
Right.
I mean, if I were to go back to LA, I would just, I go on the outskirts of town. I go to Laurel Canyon, where some of the greatest music of our time, came out of this one little part of LA. And of course, I mean, plenty of drugs and illicit substances involved, but
Yeah.
but they wrote some damn fine verses.
Well, it's because back then, LA was a music city. LA is not a music city now. LA is very much a TV, movie, and like production city where it's like if somebody made the argument of where would I rather live, LA or New York, I would 100% live in New York because New York is actually where, at least in my view, art is created.
I get that. And I mean, LA, I guess, has always been a production and filming type of city, but I guess these days it's almost like it's lost its roots. Like go ahead.
It's a city that's run basically now on reality TV. And it's like, I will say I am a fan of reality TV. I am a fan of certain reality TV because I will say that
Yeah.
I will say this. I saw something not that long ago where I said officially the end of civilization is near. Because I would say, granted, I don't have cable. This was on when I was at work one day, and it's like I saw on A&E there is a show where people now argue with parking attendants who give them tickets.
Are you fucking serious?
This is a real fucking show.
Okay,
and there's more than one episode of the show, by the way. And this is on A&E. At least when I was a kid, A&E was an educational channel.
I do remember that, but that's we have officially run out of ideas for like I can't.
There's another one too. There's a show about people getting their cars out of repo lots. There's a show about people drag racing horse and buggies with like rockets out of the back. We are done as a society. Like, we are officially done. Like, what the fuck is this?
I mean, I would say, climate change more spells the end for society, but that's another story. But but it's just like, every I guess and entertainment, it's just like originality is almost impossible to find. And when you do find it, it's like people are actually taking time out of their day to watch this.
That's why I saw this. I'm like, why? Like, literally, I swear then if that's where we're going as shows, the next show is going to be sitting there watching doormen open doors and complaining when people don't say thank you to them. That's literally where we're going as a society. That's as I say, I am a fan of reality TV. As I said, I have a friend who's been on reality TV. I know people who have been on reality TV. I am interviewing a well, I'd have announced it, so I mean I can say it. I'm interviewing Greg McKeon, who's a judge on Go for the Gold tomorrow, which is a reality show. So it's not like I don't support reality TV. I just support TV with like substance.
And I mean, in my case, like I'm always down to watch, Kitchen Nightmares, Hell's Kitchen, Hotel Hell. I mean, I probably spend way too much of my time watching Gordon Ramsay and other people like that. But yeah, not all reality TV sucks, but it's like, I mean, well, let's take MTV, for example. They might as well take the M out of it because they ditched the music a long time ago. And it's like nothing but reality shows now.
But it's because of how people consume music.
Right, because, I guess, back in the day, if you wanted to hear your favorite band or musician, I mean, you had just a couple of choices. Either go out and buy the album, or if you had cable, wait for the music video to come on or wait for it to be on the radio. Now it's just like, with a couple of clicks, you have the whole world's music catalog in the palm of your hand.
Which I will say there is an upside to that. There is a downside to that. The downside is it makes everyone believe, well, I would say that and the invention of autotune makes everyone believe that they can do music. Mm-hmm. Let me just put this for the record. No, you can't. No. If you cannot perform it live, you cannot do a song.
Work. So speaking of performing live, so let's talk more about your drag routine and doing shows and I guess everything in between. So
right.
I guess my first question is, what's the most you've ever made in tips, like during one show?
I go to shows with a lot of cheap people. I think the most I've made is like $35.
Okay, I mean it's because I know they'll still offer to buy you shots or drinks and shit.
Which I will say, I am someone who's very much against that notion. I would rather have somebody tip me whatever they're going to pay for that drink than buy me a drink. That's just how I am.
I get that. But let's see. Do you have any plans to do another show like sometime soon, like in the next couple of weeks?
In the next couple of weeks? No, I actually was just having this conversation with somebody this morning. My view of performing and like getting back into music is very much going to be when I get to Detroit or one of the other cities that I'm thinking about moving to, because it's like you know how the music scene is here.
Yeah, a lot of it's.
Suddenly.
I mean, a lot of it's like, cover bands and, but I have seen some like genuinely good people at open mic nights, but it's, but they're hard to find, Other times, I'll be downtown and, local restaurant by the water's got some cover band and I'm like, ooh, no, just please.
Well, okay. Let me put it this way. In terms of an open mic around here, could you imagine anyone letting me in the door to an open mic?
Depends on who you ask, because I can think of a couple of places. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but you might be able to get in somewhere. I mean, and now every eye in the room is going to be on you.
But that's me. That's me anywhere.
Of course.
Unfortunately, not to brag about myself, because that's like, as I've heard somebody say, to quote my friend Milo, he said, not to brag about myself, that's so gauche, but like it's very much like I know I'm the center of attention. That's why, like, it's not like I do this to get attention, but it's like I know attention's going to come to me. And if you don't think that, you're delusional.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, because, I mean, this makes me think of all the times we used to go to drag night every Wednesday, and, it was a lot of fun, but I guess there was like a lot of infighting and drama, like behind the scenes, and I know we went to, who was performing at the office that night?
Let's see. That night would be
it was Selma.
It was Ashley. Oh, yeah. You're talking about recently. Yeah, that was Selma. Yeah.
Yeah, Selma and Ashley.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was Selma and Ashley. Selma's also somebody who's willing to put in the work. Like Selma's, like, not now. She's recovering from surgery. Get well, girl. But it's like, she was like traveling down to Miami and like Wilton Manors and performing at like bars down there very frequently. So it's like
work,
because she wanted to be known more than around here. Arguably, I did the same thing.
Yeah, like you used to go down to West Palm all the time, or out all over Orlando.
Yeah,
God, I miss the Parliament House so much.
I know. It's like I'm talking about, even with this podcast, I could have just interviewed people in Florida. I didn't. I gave myself a challenge and started trying to like find people in LA.
And I mean, girl, you've interviewed people like across the ocean. I mean, like off the top of your head, how many countries would you say you've reached?
Let's see. Hold on. 3. It's okay. Not like, but that's still more than like a lot of people have.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's. I think it's like a snowball effect where once you get that ball rolling, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger so long as you keep putting in the work.
Yes. Give me money. That's my advice to podcast networks. Give me money. I feel like I've proven myself. Give me money.
Link to Cash App down below.
Oh, trust when I put this up on YouTube, I've done it with all of my videos. My Venmo link's in there. So like when this goes on YouTube, my Venmo link's below. I accept money. Please give it to me.
But and I mean, who knows? Maybe this will lead you to getting noticed by some of the the bigger names in drag. But I want to ask you something. So, if you had the choice, like, and you can only pick one, if you had the choice between meeting RuPaul and Alaska, who would it be?
Oh, this is easy. Alaska. for sure. For sure. Like, Alaska is very much sort of an oddball. I mean, granted, I would have said if you had said like RuPaul maybe 30 years ago, that would be the kind of RuPaul I'd mean. But like
Mhm.
RuPaul now is like too into. I'm never getting on Drag Race, but it's like too into like her head, and like that's why I wouldn't want to meet her now. Like I've heard stories of like she would be out like getting ice cream somewhere, and like even out of drag, somebody would be like, "Don't you know who I am?" She would say this to like queer people. It's like, girl, you are not Madonna, bitch.
And it's like, and I don't keep up with that scene nearly as much as you do, but it's like I know enough to where RuPaul had very like humble beginnings, even like his.
Absolutely.
I mean, anyone who's heard of like Nelson Sullivan, he was like the OG streamer podcaster, but I mean the internet didn't even exist. But he would film himself, all over New York City, and I guess he and RuPaul were roommates at some point. But I mean, you want to talk humble beginnings, she'd be working the streets, in a costume that you could clearly tell was homemade, and then perform. And I think, was it called the Pyramid? Yeah, this club somewhere in Manhattan called the Pyramid. Don't quote me on that, but
Right.
but yeah, it took her a long time to get to where she is. So I'll give credit where it's due.
Yeah, I don't say that she doesn't deserve the credit that she has for building the empire that she has. Do I think that that means that you should be a bitch to everybody now just because you're above a certain level? No, but that's how I am. Like, and this is on stream, which means it's on video.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be your job, bitch, to keep me in check. And like, I don't think I'll ever get to that point. But if I do, talk to me.
Girl, you know it. At the same time, I know you're very off the cuff, which I mean I think is more fun anyway.
Right. As in, like, that's why even like when I do interviews on this podcast, a lot of people tell me to send them my questions, and it's like, yes, I can send you like a general outline, but it's like if you get to a point where you're mentioning something where I can segue into another point that would include into the point that you're saying,
Right.
I'm gonna do it.
Like it's if I'm understanding you right, it's as if hardly anything is off the table.
Absolutely, because it's like, but I also view that as myself. Like you can literally ask Sean when when Sean asked me, like he said, "Do you want to see the questions?" I'm like, "No," because I don't want to know what we're going to talk about. I'd rather go in blind.
Yeah, and I mean I'm having a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, definitely.
But but let's take a left-hand turn a little bit because I mean,
Okay.
like I've been putting myself out there a little bit more, like in terms of dating and my love life. And I know you're saying like you weren't actively seeking a relationship, but it's like, I
That's
mean,
correct.
but you still see people, right?
When I have time, I'm very
Yeah,
busy.
yeah.
I would no, because like I say that and people are like, "You only do this podcast twice a week." It's like, listen, do you? Well, actually, arguably, I'm doing this podcast this week 3 times this week because I'm doing this
Oh
interview.
shit.
I'm doing an interview tomorrow, and I'm doing an interview Thursday. Like,
Okay.
so it's like, it's not like every week is different. And like, in terms of some things, if I am able to do research on somebody, I'm going to do research on somebody. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, I don't know much about like there's not a lot out there about go-go dancers, but like
Hmm.
I will continue to support the go-go community. Just say yes to me, and I will have you on, and I'll find a way to make you interesting.
Yes. But would you consider dating a go-go boy?
Uh, yes,
Hmm.
absolutely, because it's like my line would be someone who's actively on OnlyFans or actively doing porn. Because my thing
Hmm.
is, I could date somebody who's doing that stuff in the past, but it's like doing things in the present. It's like I don't know. I'm more. I thought for a time like that I would need to be in an open relationship, but I think now I'm leaning more towards like wanting monogamy.
Yeah, which I'm open to the idea of relationships like where both partners say if you find somebody where you want to try something new or explore, then go for it.
Right.
Um, I think I'd prefer monogamy myself, but like I said, I haven't totally written it off. But I guess to that point, what would you say is your biggest turn on?
A big dick. No, I'm kidding.
Correct answer. but and any others?
I would say, for me, it's I don't know, but it's like almost you need to. It's you want to have a conversation with somebody where it's like you could almost see being in a relationship with them, and it's like
Almost like you tell you are going to have a connection with them.
yes, and I'm very much a fan of vulnerability.
Mm. Where it's like, at least in my mind, if you get the gut feeling that you can't, open yourself up to somebody, not to say you should share everything, because there's things only you and your therapist should know, but if you're not comfortable with sharing your interests and even things like your kinks and your fetishes, then it's probably not going to
Right.
work. But then, well, that kind of leads me to one of my other questions. So, over the years, what would you say is the most interesting or like unusual kink or fetish you've encountered in real life?
Ooh, gotta think about that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's ones that like. Well, okay, I haven't actively like seen this, but I heard this is a thing.
Hmm.
Apparently, there are people who are into murder porn.
Ooh, like I think I have heard of that, but it's so they get off by watching people be killed.
I guess. Yes.
Ooh. Now, frankly, that's something you should hope you never encounter in real life.
No, I'm not getting murdered. I didn't like survive being suicidal twice just to have somebody fucking murder me. No.
I work. Excuse me. So let's see. So turning now to, let me see. Oh, this is something I actually wanted to touch on earlier. So, like going back to the people that you've met, the friends you've made doing this podcast.
Right.
Would you consider doing a collaborative album with Milo?
I don't know if we do a collaborative album. We had the last time Milo was on, we did talk about doing a song, which is something I would definitely love to do. Like literally Milo's at the top of my like list of people I want to work
Hmm.
with.
Oh,
But
I
it's like
absolutely.
but it's like if we could make it work to do an album, I would love to do it. But the thing is, as Milo will say, if you ever get a chance to meet Milo,
Which I would love to.
yes, it's finding Milo wherever the fuck he is, because Milo does not like to stay places for long.
Yeah. Well, so where does he live now?
The last time I talked to him, he lived in DC. I doubt he's in DC still. Because that was something where it's like, he wanted to make music in like a smaller music scene. And he's like, I'll move to DC. I'm like, and I'm thinking, you idiot, you should just move to Detroit like I am. Because like,
But I mean, DC's a cool town. I'm not going to lie, and
it's expensive.
well, yeah, especially if you live in those like certain Virginia or Maryland neighborhoods. Like, ugh, there's no way. But but despite all the crotchety old fuckers that populate, the government, it's there's not a half bad gay nightlife around there. Like last time I was up there. I mean, last time I was up there, this is probably, I want to say 9 years. Yeah, 9 years ago. Even just walking down the DC side streets, there were lots of gay nightclubs and bars. And I mean, I don't even think I was 21 at the time, so I couldn't go in. But I'm just like, hey, I like this town a lot.
But again, as I said, DC is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here's the thing. When I think music, I don't think DC, and that's probably why he wanted to move there.
Yeah, and because if you want to move to a music city, I mean, Austin's a big one.
Right, and that's also probably why I want to move to Detroit, because it's like, when you think music, Detroit is not the first city that pops into your head.
Yeah. I mean, 50 years ago, I'm sure the first answer would have been Detroit, because some of the biggest, some of the biggest, R&B and disco and kind of like Motown recordings were coming out of that city.
Right, but it's also the fact of like, when people want to talk about like Detroit as a music city, let's forget, in like somewhat modern times, Eminem's originally from Detroit.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. Eminem's originally from Detroit, so it's like, there's definitely like hip hop influences in Detroit, but it's like, granted, is that all there is? But no, it's like, but even in Orlando's not really, as I said, people are doing acoustic sets in Orlando. I shook things up by being me.
Right.
I could do the same thing in Detroit.
No doubt. Let's see here. So do you have a timeline for when you'd actually want to, get up to Detroit?
I'm thinking June.
Okay.
June 2024, or if not somewhere near there. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but so long as you got something you're working toward, that's going to keep the flame going, sweetie.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, as I was just talking to you a few days ago, it's like, I'm done with this area. Like, there's a reason I spend a lot of my weekends recently going down to Wilson, because this area fucking sucks.
I mean, I feel a little bit different about that, but I'm just saying. But yeah, I think
that's because you would cast a fishing line off a like pier, and like that's something you would do as fun. Whereas I say,
in what fucking universe have I ever told you that I do that for fun? That's
I'd rather be thrown off a boat like I'm Natalie Wood than fucking do that. But like,
shit. Okay, girl. Now,
let me shut up. What's your next question?
okay, girl. Check. Just take a minute. I'm like, let's. Oh my god. So, but but it's like it's yeah, you really have outgrown this area, and it's just like time for you to just just spread your wings.
I'm a city bitch. Like that's honestly
Oh
like
yeah,
what living in Orlando taught me is that like I'm a city bitch. Like I granted I don't need to be out like every night, but I need to be out like once a week, twice a week.
yeah, and I mean, and I wish I wish there were more places that were gay friendly around here, because otherwise, most of the time I go to work and I go home and I don't go out a whole lot, but if there were more places like that, then yeah, I'd go out after work a lot more.
You need to come with me to Wilton. We'll do.
Yeah, like fucking road trip. Fucking oh my god! I think I haven't been to Wilton in probably God 9 8 9 years, but I think well the Manor's the only bar that I've been to down there. It's with me and some friends would just pile in the car and just go there and then wind up at fucking IHOP at 4 in the morning. But but I just hope we'd go on a night where it's not $20 cover charge to get in, because whatever night it was I went, I'm like, God damn, are we what are we paying to see?
Well, there was just an event yesterday that Velvet Lenore hosted, who shout out to Velvet. I do love Velvet.
Mm-hmm.
Velvet's originally from this area. I found that out when I met her. But like she was just doing an event in honor of the 14th anniversary of the Manor, and cover was $5
That's not
that
bad.
day. Yeah.
Hell of a lot better than 20. But
I haven't had to recently pay to get into anywhere in Wilton.
But I mean, is it because more and more people recognize you, or
No, it's just I've gone to places without cover. But I mean, like, I'm starting to like slowly but surely get recognized when I go to certain people's events. Like, I just went to an event last weekend where like I met one of the I would say one of the people who makes Wilton Matters. His name is Geo, and he like
oh,
famously well, I should say famously. He hosts parties there a lot. He runs a studio in Wilton or Fort Lauderdale where like people shoot photos of themselves. They shoot porn, OnlyFans, and all this stuff. Like he's one of those types of people. I met him last weekend, and like
mm-hmm.
we followed each other for years, but it's like now we had like a chance to finally meet in person, because I didn't see any point in going to Wilton unless I knew people.
Yeah,
And that's
because
where I go now.
otherwise it's like you're flying in the dark, blind, and even yeah, like if I go out, then I want to have someone come with me. Even like I would even it would make me feel more like safe, if that makes any sense.
Well, the thing is, if you come with me, I can now introduce you to entertainers in Wilton because I now know some.
That'd be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, but yeah. So Wilton's fantastic, but what would you have you done much of the Miami scene, or are you not really into that?
I don't like Miami. Like the last time I was in Miami, I don't know. I don't like it because like I feel like there's more rules of like what you're allowed to like go into certain clubs and have because like anyone who knows me now, I am Prince Electro Diamond, the bitch that is famously half naked every time I perform or go anywhere. So it's like,
It's yeah, but I think starting to get your point because I've been cruising through South Beach and you can hear the music from some of these clubs a block away, and you see the velvet rope outside, and the vibe that I get is you'd feel like an asshole for just even trying to get into the place, like like, oh, you're not the kind that we wanted here. Next. And you'd probably pay 50 bucks just to get through the door, and then another 20 bucks a cocktail.
it's my reason is not for that. It's like now there are places where they have rules of because I will say this, I'm a drag queen, but I'm not a purse bitch. So like I famously carry my shit around in like a small backpack and like
Hmm.
in a lot of clubs in Miami, there are rules against having backpacks when you go in clubs. So it's like I either don't go out or I go out and like not be in drag and I don't have as much fun.
Well, so you're saying that people can carry purses but not backpacks?
Absolutely. The last time I was out in Miami, I ran into that same issue. It's why I literally had gotten ready and then I went to go like check the website of the place and they literally said no backpacks. And it's not like this is a big backpack. This is a small backpack. It literally
Yeah.
has it's just enough room for like my wallet, my keys, my phone, and like a small like makeup bag, my hairbrush, and like
Hmm.
it's not big at all.
Because you could easily smuggle shit into the club with a little backpack or a purse. It's the same thing, just a different shape.
They limit the size of purses at certain places.
Okay, so at least there's that. But it's weird to ban one thing but not the other.
Right.
Um,
Whereas like in Wilton, I haven't run into that issue yet.
yeah, like Miami is definitely, at least if you know where to go, you can avoid those like exclusive places because I mean I've got family who lives down there, and anytime we go out and paint the town, it's like boom 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 boom, we're going to all these places that if you're a tourist, there's no way you'd find them. But I mean, shit, I even know of a couple of places in South Beach where you can get a drink for $5, which is unheard of.
I do have to give a shout out to one place in South Beach. It's a place that I've been to. They have a phenomenal drag scene. It's Palace. If you've never been to Palace in South Beach, it's literally
Mm.
the queens there are like amazing. I know at least on their dinner shows they have
Oh, so they do more than drag brunch.
yes. They do a
Nice.
dinner show cuz I believe I have to double check with this. Somebody who the person I'm interviewing on Thursday, I believe performs there now, or at least they used to before.
Okay, because yeah, if the two of us were to go to Miami, that's where I'd want to go.
Right. So like but if we were to do this, would you want to do like we could do like Wilton and then like drive down to Miami too. Like
It's not a
it's
bad
the
idea.
yeah, it's not that big of a difference.
I mean, I don't think we could do it all in a single day, but
No. I'd be saying like please. The only time I thought about doing Wilton in one day was I thought about going down yesterday to the Manor event and then coming back up, but it's like
it's such a long drive.
Well, it's not that. Sean knows what I was getting up to this weekend.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about. Let's just say I got a tune-up that I needed. Anyway, next question.
It's like, oh, he was keeping your engine warm. Okay, yeah, next question. So, so, excuse me. So, I know with this podcast growing like it is, I mean, if it got big enough, because I know you need to have creative control, but would you ever hire a little like production team or some kind of support staff?
Yes, but I would say I would honestly. I would say I'd want to like do more of a collaboration with somebody, like in terms of the person I'm writing questions with. I'd want or writing have to do questions. I'd want to do like questions with them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd also want approval on guests because like I don't want to. It's why like I would say in truth I'm not like Ellen because like I'm not gonna sit here and like just have somebody on just to have somebody on. I want to have some interest in the person I'm interviewing.
Exactly. It's well, like so having somebody on just to have them on, like what's the point of that?
Well, but because you gotta figure like Ellen did it for her entire talk show. It's like so that they could promote their newest project. When I'm
Mm,
approaching somebody to promote their newest project, it's because I'm interested in their newest project.
gotcha. So let's see here. And well, then as far as keeping people booked, I know that multiple times you've had guests, cancel or back out at the last minute.
Right.
So, like, do you always, if they do that, do you always give them another chance, or does it depend on the situation?
It depends on if there's communication with me. If there's communication with me and it's a legitimate excuse, I usually give people a second chance.
Hmm.
If it's, I would say, in truth, if you're going to have to reschedule with me, I would prefer somebody to tell me that before I get ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because there have been times where I've had people reschedule after I've gotten ready. But like, I would prefer if you have to, like, I mean, granted, shit happens, but it's like, I don't need much notice. I literally need, like, at most an hour and a half, like, just to give me, like, notifications of, like, hey, I can't do today.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes shit happens and
Absolutely.
you can't make it. But if you're doing this two, three, four times, then it's like, okay, are you in or out?
Well, no, I tend to not give people third chances.
Yeah, which makes sense. But um, hmm. So who did you say it was that you're interviewing tomorrow?
So the person I'm interviewing tomorrow's name is Greg McKeon. He's a judge on the judge and co-creator of the show Go for the Gold, and is an OnlyFans content creator along with. Well, this I don't have any questions about, but apparently he lives in Oregon and does Christmas tree farming.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like we've talked about him before.
Because he was booked before. He was booked
That's
before,
that's it.
but that was a situation again where something came up and we rescheduled. But he's definitely been more responsive this time, which gives me satisfaction as the host that he's actually going to show up tomorrow.
Yeah, which that's a good thing because if I've known too many people in my life who they can't communicate to save their life. They'll take 3 to 5 business days to answer a text, or they'll never call you back. And I guess I'm done. I'm done with that shit.
Right.
But let's see. I'm starting to run out of prepared questions here. But in fact, let me turn this around. Did you have anything you want to ask me?
Ooh. I have never done this to a guest, clearly, because actually, no. There are some times that guests have voluntarily asked questions to me that I've answered. But I would say, I guess the only question I have is, now doing this medium, now doing it, you're almost an hour 40 in now. Like, is this something that you would consider doing? I understand you don't want like my schedule. I don't think anyone wants my schedule, but like would you consider doing this like if you had the idea maybe like once a month? Like not on my podcast. I'm talking about just like in general.
Meaning like would I start my own podcast or something similar?
Yeah, that you essentially just do like maybe once a month, like once every other month, like.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea because, like I said, it only feels like it's been 10 minutes, but here we are, going on an hour and 40 minutes, and
right.
I guess it just feels more natural, being behind the mic because I've never really done anything like this, but. Yeah, this has been an experience, I got to tell you, and one that I can't thank you enough for for having me on and everything.
Of course, Betty. Like, my thing is, I will see what the audience's reaction is like with you based on the clips and like the full video and like the comment section, and who knows, y'all may see Sean again and I may not be the guest. He may be interviewing somebody that he has some interest in getting to know.
Oh, work.
And
well, as a matter of fact, I've been on this show once before, but it was before your streaming days.
Right. It was back in season 1 when I literally had like even less of an audience than I do now. So it's like, in terms of coming back, I will always say like, and who knows, I may listen to that and like have him back on again and like interview him. But the thing is, like, my thing is I don't know my schedule because I will say this: December's looking a little tight because it happens that like Christmas and New Year's Eve both fall on Mondays, so it's like I have to push people into January.
Right, and and I'd probably be working anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it's with the big shakeups I've had at my job these past few weeks. I'm just taking this shit one day at a time. But as far as I'm concerned, the holidays, they're just going to come and go, and like it's, to me, it's still a special time. But somebody I know used to say, "There's nothing over like Christmas." with there being so much pressure to go out and spend, and I couldn't believe this, but the average person is expected to spend over like $800 on Christmas shopping. And I'm like, I mean, I get that you want to buy presents, but there's other ways to say I love you.
See, $800. I'm spending nowhere near that on Christmas. I can say that right now.
That makes two of us. But it's there's so much pressure to go through the motions, do your shopping, blah 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 blah. But I'm like, I'm content to just get with family, drink wine, eat good food, and hang out.
Yeah, I think my budget's at most probably like $120 for Christmas, but that's because.
and I haven't even started my shopping yet, but I guess if I wait,
I haven't either.
Yeah, I guess. Well, if I wait too much longer, Amazon probably won't get it to me till after New Year's. But
I believe in giving New Year's presents. Fuck, I might do that. Well,
yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I know I have to. There's someone. I'm putting it off. I always do. I put it off because, I don't. Here's the thing. It's very easy shopping for me. I have no problem shopping for me. I have a lot of problems shopping for other people.
Yeah, there's a lot of the people in my life, they are impossible to shop for. Yeah, but I try and keep the presents thoughtful, and every now and then I'll make something, but I don't know. I feel like the last thing that the average person needs is, a bunch of gadgets that are going to break in 2 years.
Exactly. So go back Stone Ages. Classics, present, a jar of dirt.
It's like, we give you a jar of dirt. You give me rock.
Exactly. It's like, this is the thing. It's like, get people influential presents. It's like, I don't know who you're influenced by. I consider Martha Stewart an influential person. I think Martha Stewart is amazing. Everyone's like, why is Martha Stewart a role model? Because she's been to prison. That's why.
Oh my god. With that whole insider trading shit. I've never followed much of her cooking, but I don't even. How active is she even still?
She has a show with Snoop Dogg, I think.
Oh,
I might be. They have like a cooking show on. I want to say VH1. I might be wrong about that, but I know that they do have a cooking show. I just don't know what network it's on.
Yeah, it's Snoop Dogg. I'd never think. Well, I think I'm starting to run out of steam here. Let me see.
Just figure out how to close it out. I'm not in control.
I know, but like I said, I would love to do that. I would love to do this again sometime, and even somebody I'd be interested in getting to know. Now that would be fun. But I guess at the end of the day, again, can't thank you enough for having me on.
Well, of course. Thank you for interviewing me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, sweetie. Well, with that, I think I'm going to sign off here. I want to say I love all you beautiful people. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, this has been Sean speaking for Gay Out the City, and hope you all have a fabulous day.
Work.